Welcome to our weekly Friday Talk and Tour series when we share the opportunity to visit the studios of our wonderful artists and hear about their works and inspiration. These visits are brought to you by the Duncan McClellan Gallery and the DMG School Project of St. Petersburg, Florida. Thank you for joining us.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's really good to see you again this week. I really want to thank all of you for being here. It's a real honor that you come in. We produce these during the week, and I really got to thank our team for putting this together. Danielle, Mary, Irene. It's a labor of love. At least I know it's a labor, but I know they really work hard in putting it together. I really want to thank our guests from Santa Fe, our friends and artists that are joining us today. I think you'll find it fascinating on how they make their work, why they make their work, and I'm really thankful that you're here. Today, Mary will introduce the individual artists, and then we'll show you the show. So take it away, Mary.
Thanks, Duncan, and welcome everyone for being here. As Duncan said, we're so excited to have the artists visiting us from Santa Fe, such a wonderful glass art community. And, so much history there, so much history about glass, but also about the development of a community of artists who continue to grow and experiment separately and together. So if you'll bear with me, I will share my screen. And first we'll see a little walkthrough of the exhibit right here in the gallery. Then each artist will get a chance to introduce themselves a little bit, and there'll be some conversation between them. Then we'll get to focus in on individual pieces. Please feel free to enter comments and questions in your chat button. Usually it's at the bottom of your screen. And also choose the speaker view, again, usually in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, and that will give you the ability to focus on the person that's actually speaking rather than see the whole gallery of our wonderful guests today. So again, welcome, and let me pull up the screen and we'll start our presentation and introduce our guests. So let's see. Bear with me here, I think. Can anyone see the screen?
I see you.
Okay.
Well, I'll take this opportunity to tell you about our Pat Tavera class. I'm good at tap dancing. Pat Tavera class with Deanna Clayton, April 2nd and 3rd.
Oh, nice.
Thank you.
Nice.
And how do we sign up for that, Duncan?
Just call Irene or email Irene and she will sign you right up. We have a couple more spaces. We have a couple of scholarship seats with the Woodson artists, but we'd love to have you.
Great. That's Irene at dmglass.com. So again, welcome everyone to Glass Experience Santa Fe. The artists are from visiting us from Santa Fe today, but the glass is actually in the gallery. And here's a little video of the exhibition. This is Charlie Miner. And we see Lucy Lyon work on the wall.
And we'll get a chance to see stills of these works as well.
More by Lucy. Elodie Holmes. And we started with Peter Wright, those beautiful animal spirit jars. And here's one of them that's gorgeous. Hawk spirit jar. And a pitcher plant. So today we have Elodie Holmes, Lucy Lyon, Peter Wright, and virtually in spirit only, Charlie Miner. So I've put everyone, do you want to just wave, Elodie, Lucy, and Peter? There you go.
I see
So,
your faces.
Great. And again, everyone, feel free to enter your comments in the chat. We're starting with Elodie because alphabetically she's first. So Elodie, do you want to talk a little bit about, this is your home in Santa Fe?
Yeah, this is my glass shop in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I've been here now in this building 20 years, and we have a nice situation here normally. Normally we're doing a lot of classes, tour-based classes, you know, one experience or more. People come back a lot to just make something and go home with it the next day after it's cooled down. It's very popular. It's put us as one of the #1 things to do in Santa Fe on TripAdvisor, which is nice.
Yay.
Yeah. So, and I have a nice small gallery space inside as well. That we have a hot shop, a cold shop where we do all the finish work and polishing, and the gallery. So this is where it's all coming out of. And at home, this is our garden at home. My partner Janine and I. She's the master gardener, the Santa Fe master gardener lady, and grows a lot of different kinds of vegetables and flowers and all kinds of stuff. And this is what it looks like in the summer. Right now, it's just dirt. Nothing's growing yet here. We have a very short growing season here. So it's nice to get outside and have that and have fresh food. And, you know, that's one of the nice things about being in Santa Fe is all the outdoor things we can do. And here we are in the hot shop. That's Janine helping me a while back. And, you know, I guess most of you have seen glass blowing before, but there we are doing our thing.
Now, Elodie, we talked the other day a little bit about, you know, the inspiration for the patterns that are in your work, and we'll see that work more closely later. And you said that you like to fish, and I was wondering, are those patterns, you know, inspired by water? The sky in Santa Fe is so amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, it's not the fish in particular, but being outside, the waterscape, the landscape, the skyscape, all of it, being out in nature is quite inspiring to me. The colors and the patterns, being out here in the desert especially, and using the special Calcedony formula that I melt gives you those natural striations, and it often looks landscape-like to me, or even skyscape. And I really, it just makes you feel good, you know, to do that and to see that and find some forms that looks good on too. It's yeah, it's very inspirational, and the light here is phenomenal. You know, it's just so hardly any pollution or anything like that, and it's just so crystal clear, and the bright blue skies, and yeah, anything from the deep red rocks and the cliffs to, you know, the green mountains. It's really beautiful. So yeah, it's very inspiring.
Elodie, where did you come from to Santa Fe from?
I came here, I grew up back east in Maryland. I went to California College of the Arts in Oakland, and I came to Santa Fe from there, from school, to help run a glass shop that used to be on Canyon Road. In fact, Charlie Miner started out there as well, a guy named Peter Vanderlyn. used to run that shop, and it was built like in the mid 70s, I think. And then it finally went out of business. It went through many different change of hands. I never owned it, but it eventually went out of business in around 98, maybe something like that, 96. And but that's, you know, I helped to run that shop, and it was kind of run like a co-op for a couple of years. I did that, and I also worked out of a bronze foundry, so I was doing a lot of sculpting and you know, wax finishing, mold making, and all of that, because I came from a ceramics background. So when I was at CCA, it was I was doing a double major in glass and ceramics. So that's how I made it to Santa Fe. And I didn't even know anything about Santa Fe. So I came out here, and I loved the vibe, and there was artists and work everywhere, you know, lots of art here, and I love the outdoors. So I ended up staying. So it's been my home since 1981. So that's a long time. What is that? 40 years?
And
So,
Charlie came around early 70s, right? Or early to mid.
yeah, he came out before me. And he learned to blow glass at that shop that was on Canyon Road, started by I think it was Jack Miller and Mel Knowles. And then he ended up building a shop out in Tasuke, which is just like 15 minutes north of town here. And he helped build, you know, Shidoni Foundry, and which started in chicken coops. And then you know, they took that property and started making a foundry, and then he built a shop and bought property there, and it grew into this beautiful facility between the two different businesses, the glass and the bronze casting. So they have Charlie's part of quite a legacy here in Santa Fe.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And Lucy, did you arrive around the same time?
I got here in 1978.
So, you know,
and I was in Los Alamos at that point, Los Alamos, where the National Lab is. And
okay.
So that's about 45 minutes from Santa Fe. And then we moved down to Powake, which is in between the two. So that's where I am now. I've lived here where my studio is since 1984. So this is a piece, this is one of my full figures. And, you know, my work is usually about some kind of emotional statement about or being, a way of being. And I really like it when people can actually make their own stories about these people, as opposed to me telling you what it is, because it's been many things as I'm making it. You know, a lot of stuff goes through your head as you're sculpting. So, so this is just one of my hoodie characters.
And you sculpt these from clay first, correct? And I think we'll see some.
Well, sometimes I sculpt from clay, and then this particular figure was sculpted in wax first.
Oh, okay. Right.
Sometimes I sculpt in wax. For a long time, I've had this generic sort of shape of a figure, and I will bend the wax into all these different positions, and then embellish it with clothing and so on and so forth. So that's starting from wax.
This next picture is very different, but it is something that of a type of work that you do.
Well, I used to do this a lot. This was what I first got to be known for, was these libraries that I've made. I made probably 30, 40, 50 libraries. But this is a memorial to the Sandy Hook disaster. It was commissioned by Donald Rappo, who has a printing factory in Sandy Hook. And he wanted, everybody in Sandy Hook wanted something to sort of help them heal. And this is in his factory now. It has 20 little chairs they're metal bases and cast glass backs. And that represents the 20 kids who died. And it has 6 bookshelves, and the bookshelves represent the educators. And on the floor is the date, December 14th, 2012.
And the scale of this, did you tell us this?
Yeah, it's about 30 inches by 15 inches, 30 inches wide, 15 inches deep, and 20 inches high, 22 inches high.
Wow. Wow.
And this one is a collaboration I did with Tim Tate. And so this is my figure and Tim Tate's environment. And it really works. I have had so much fun working with Tim. And putting this figure in one of his environments just reminds me completely of New York City and the subway and urban life. And I love New York City and I love urban life, even though I live in the middle of nowhere. So it's kind of cool.
So do you find all 3 of you that are here living in the Santa Fe area, do you ever call each other up and say, hey, I'm working on this idea and what do you think about this? Or do you just kind of happen to run into each other and share what's going on? How does the glass community maintain itself and grow, and especially in this last year?
We do sometimes call each other. I called Lucy this morning about something, you know. I see Peter Wright, one of my tenants here at the shop, is a bronze finisher, and Peter has a lot of the bronze work finished over there, and that's how I met Peter. You know, and he'll come in and see what I'm up to, or he'll ask me a question where I got some material, or, you know, shipping something, or, you know, yeah, we have a pretty tight community here. You know, there's a couple other glass shops, and there's like a free exchange of information and people and help, and you know, I just love that about us. Lucy and I took some sculpting classes together, you know, once.
We've been to gas conferences together.
We travel to the Glass Art Society conferences together. She's a great travel companion. She's a party girl.
Charlie and I both employ the same helpers.
Yep, and I do too.
And she does too. So yeah, so we sort of
they all rotate in and out of each shop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that helps.
Between you keep all of the glass people employed, right, in the Santa Fe area.
Essentially, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we are, me, Lucy, Charlie, and Prairie Dog Glass. We're like the major glass employers in Santa Fe.
And I would say in St. Pete, something similar is happening, right? There are a group of young glass artists, especially that.
That's what we're hoping to build.
Yeah, when we were there for the glass conference, oh, I loved what was happening down there. Duncan, you guys are all so busy connecting with so many different people on so many levels, from teaching and opening it up to the community and the students, the younger students as well, and the residencies you offer and all of that. It's just phenomenal. I mean, it's
kind of like opening a pool in midsummer. Once you get hot shop going, it takes a while, but people gravitate to it.
Yeah, totally. Right.
I just wanted to share quickly. So Lucy, you had sent these images today, and we'll see Lucy's glass pieces later on in the presentation, but this is how they start, right?
Yeah, these are the waxes. This is so I fixed the waxes up, and then I invested in plaster and silica and take out the wax, turn the molds upside down, and melt glass into the cavity that's left. And then you see the glass, which is the next picture, right? Yeah. So this is, the glass does not come out looking like this, but after a little while, a lot of grinding and so forth, and taking off of plaster and so forth, you end up with something like this. And this is before they get put on the shelves. So,
And here's another picture.
yeah, this is just another, these are the people that are in the show. So,
And you mentioned that you turn the heads, you give a little attitude towards them. So you do that while they're
do that in wax.
Okay.
Yeah. I sort of heat them up under, I have a heat lamp, and I just let them lie under there until not till they melt, but
Yeah.
until they melt, and then move them around and try to get, like if I have two people, I want to have them interacting with each other. And so I move their heads, and sometimes I bend their shoulders and things like that. So
We'll be excited to see the close-ups of your work later on.
Okay.
Let's see. Peter.
Yes.
Peter, you're here. Yeah.
there you
And
are.
yeah, Peter's in his studio in Albuquerque right now, correct?
Yep. Yep.
And behind you, let's see, we have, are they Idolos or what would,
Those are a couple of Mezcala figures that I made some years ago. I really like them. I enjoyed making them, and I show them whenever I get a chance.
so most of your work actually comes from cultural references, or is it, or at least those figures started out that way, and the mask also behind you.
I'm interested in more earlier sort of pre-technology cultures. I hate to call them primitive because at the time they probably weren't primitive. Today we think of them that way, but I'm very interested in early cultures, and so that's what these figures behind me represent. The taller figures are something that was carved in stone originally in Mexico 1,000 years ago, and they were much smaller then. And then the mask is, I love masks. I have a collection of masks at home from all over the world, and I started collecting them when I was a teenager. So this is just one that I made for myself.
And would that be part of the reason you were drawn to cast this piece here that I'm showing on the screen? Because it is a mask also.
Yeah, so before I started working in glass, I had a business making bronze sculptures for other artists. And this was actually made from a glass mask of William Morris's. Ultimately, he's the one that got me into the glass world, to making my own glass. But I was in his studio about 21 years ago, and I saw this entire series in glass, and he let me pick a couple of pieces out to make bronzes of, and this is the first one we did. So I've had this bronze business now for 26 years. I'm the new kid on the block in Santa Fe, I suppose, relative to Lucy and Elodie. I moved to Santa Fe in '97.
Okay.
I started my business making bronzes in Santa Fe in '95, and then I moved out in '97. So
And what brought you to Santa Fe?
well, the artists that I was working with and the people that I was making bronzes with, everything was sort of centered in Santa Fe. Initially, I met a painter, a Navajo painter in Chicago, when he was a student at the Art Institute of Chicago, and we became friends. And he sort of introduced me into the community. His name's Tony Abeda, and I met him 31 years ago in Chicago. And that was probably the first person that started focusing my view on Santa Fe.
Now, this next artist, Hib Sabin, who you work with also, is he in the area too?
Hib is a wood carver, and in fact, this is a wood carving here that he did, and we've been making bronzes together again, for a little over 20 years. And in fact, the pieces that I have in this exhibition are collaborative pieces between me and him. This is a bronze of the wood carving we just saw a minute ago.
Right.
But
And then here.
so this piece, so I made the glass first and I made the wooden stopper. And then I gave this piece to Hib and asked him to carve me a snowy owl for the top of it. And then I got out of the way and let him carve a snowy owl in his style. And we've been making these together for, I want to say 11 years. We've been making these. We make a few every year. And they're some of my favorite pieces to make.
We have some beautiful ones in the gallery. This next slide I had to include because it's such an achievement, really. And it's beautiful.
So this is a piece we made for Bill Morris. He made the original piece out of glass, and it was a little bit smaller than this. And I saw it on the island in his kitchen the first time I was at his studio, and I commented to him that I thought that would make a great bronze. And then we moved on to talking about something else. And a few weeks later, the glass piece showed up at my house unannounced, and very excited. So we went ahead and made a bronze edition out of it. And then I was looking at this and thinking we really needed to have a big one. So we blew it up. This is about a 4 3/4 times enlargement. This piece is basically 8 feet long, about 5.5 feet tall and 4 feet wide. And we made this out of clay over a steel and styrofoam armature, and then made it out of clay. And it was done freehand in Santa Fe by a couple of really skilled local artisans. And then it was maybe 90 or 95% done. And Bill flew out to look at it. And that was the first time he saw it, when it was almost finished. And he spent a couple days with us refining this piece. And then once he was happy with it, we went ahead and produced it as a bronze. And we produced it in the studio that's next door to Elodie's studio. It's in her building. And when it was all assembled, it was too big to get out the door. So we had to open the doorway. There's a big sliding door into Elodie's studio. So we had to move some of her equipment, open that door, push it up a ramp and through her studio to get it out of the building.
Yep.
But it was an adventure.
That's not the
It looks
first
like
piece.
it's residing in Florida somewhere.
Yeah, it's over in Boca Raton. And the couple that has this, Lynn and Howard, Lynn bought it for Howard for his 70th birthday. And it's in a golf community, and it's outside of their kitchen, outside of their breakfast nook. So Howard can sit down and have his breakfast and look at this every morning.
Cool. Beautiful.
And he's a big Morris collector, so he was thrilled to have this.
Well, that's, you know, these bronzes are just part of what you do, Peter. And when we look at your work, we'll see all the influences of all the different materials that you work with and all the different artists that you work with too. I'm hoping you folks, I know Charlie, but you folks know him even more. So I'm going to show a few pictures, and please feel free to chime in and add what you would like to say about Charlie. He's a great guy. Now, this picture is, I think, on Charlie's arrival to Santa Fe, coming from California in the early 70s. He said he arrived with a wife, kids, couple chickens, little bit of cash, but not much, and was on his way to, I think, learn how to blow glass, if I'm correct. I think it's 1972. And
Yeah.
then, pardon me?
I was
1972?
just agreeing. Yeah, it was. I couldn't remember the date, but yeah, he started right in the very beginning of that glass shop on Kenyon Road. That's no longer there, but yeah. And then he built this, which is just a beautiful studio and gallery, and it's being run as a kind of a co-op right now. You know, and it's in exchange for helping to cast and work on his cast pieces. He has a crew of people there that run the hot shop, and they're all very talented people. And again, some people work out of my shop too. Some people work at Prairie Dog. Some people help Lucy, you know, that also do their own work out of Charlie's shop here. But it's and they, you know, he's, like it says, established 1975. I mean, he's got quite a following. It's quite the legacy that he's established up in Tsuke.
And it's a blowing and a casting facility.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And here's a picture of the interior. And he's also known for his peacocks, right? They roam
Yep.
all around the property.
Yep. You hear them calling and everything, and the kids are always chasing them. And
We see them in the gallery.
yeah, that's a rare event there. But anyway, yeah, because they get kind of messy. But yeah, but they, you know, it's a very festive atmosphere. It's very down to earth. It's, you know, they've got some wonderfully talented people in there, and
And
yeah.
a lot of careers launched like through that shop. I
Yes, absolutely. Yep. A lot of people starting out, let me sweep your floor. Let me, you know, help you do this or that. I want to learn how to blow glass, and little exchanges going on. And before you know it, you know, they're flying the coop and you're left having to find somebody else to help you work. But that's as it should be. You know, you train them, and then they
Right.
go off and find their own wings, you know? Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you, folks. We're going to take the opportunity. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and then Irene McClellan is going to be our personal curator and kind of zero in on some of your pieces. And Duncan, I don't know if you're going to ask questions, or the audience also, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question about the pieces that we're going to look at. I just have to stop sharing my screen for a sec. And okay. And Irene's going to queue up.
Hi, Irene.
Hi.
Thank you for doing this.
Absolutely.
Since you're focusing on Peter right now, let's talk about Peter's work. We'll go backwards. Let's go to the owl, spirit jar. They're really wonderful. These total pieces, the focus of the owls, the meticulous carving that you did on it, Peter. Tell me a little bit more about the process, if you could. I think the public would find it interesting.
Okay, so these are collaborative pieces, as I mentioned before. So I did the glass first out at Prairie Dog Glass, and then created the stoppers for them. And Hib Sabin, who's somebody I've been making bronzes for over 20 years, and he's 86 years old now and still very active. He does the wood carvings. You know, I tell him what I want, and then he produces them in his style. And you'll see 3 of these pieces. The glass is carved as well. All the 2 of the owl pieces and 1 of the hawk have some Batuto work on them, and that's done by Lino's cold working crew. I send these pieces up to Seattle, I mask them off, and I take pictures and I write notes, and I send these to Seattle and get them carved, and then they come back to me. Again, that's before the wood carving is done. But,
Oh, thanks, Peter.
excuse me?
I said thank you.
Okay.
Can you give us an overview, Irene, of some of the individual pieces?
Sure. and you're seeing this, so you're getting your nice overview.
So
If you
there's,
can come around to that wonderful hawk. Yes, Mary.
oh, just the detail of the carving, but also the batuto. Just really beautiful.
We're just seeing you, Mary.
Oh.
I think if Irene talks, then it will show the full screen of the work that she's showing.
Actually, if you go up, if you have like I do, all the little boxes across the top, and you see you've got one that's moving with the camera, if you choose to pin that, it will show large on your screen.
Thank you.
Or you pin the video? Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
Thanks, whoever said
Well,
that.
we always enjoy you coming here, Peter. You used to come quite a bit, and I hope you start visiting us again.
As soon as I feel safe getting back on a plane.
Yes, I understand. Well, hopefully that moment will come soon.
Yeah, as you
But
know,
really
I have family
wonderful.
in the area, and it's a good chance for me to visit them and see you guys. I love it down there.
Irene, could we go to Elodie's work, particularly the Mobius conjunction? That's a really new piece that I really find fascinating. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Elodie?
Yeah, this is, during this past year, being in the shop all by myself, I've actually spread out quite a bit because we couldn't have anybody here, and I was doing a lot of work by myself. And I have a lot of components and pieces that I make and put on the shelf and watch for a while. And the twisted part of it, the legs that kind of hold the whole piece up, is, I've been looking at it for a long time, and I actually happened to take one of my portal pieces, which are, it's usually a whole round piece with 2 windows in it. And I just was intrigued to cut that in half. And when it was laying there, I just happened to be moving things around in the studio, and these 2 pieces, these 3 pieces really, spoke to me. And I was like, I wonder what that would look like, And so it was a very organic blending of elements of things that I have around me. And I was really intrigued by it. And I sat looking at it. I tried different positions, but really there was only one way that it really fit on there. And I couldn't believe how perfectly it fit. So it was kind of a marriage of ideas that have been sitting around for a while. Sometimes it works that way. It's just this sort of organic, designing thing that happens. I just love it. And I've done a lot of work in the past with those twisted forms, the long solid twisted glass forms. I've nicknamed them timelines because I've done different things. I've put heads on them, like it's moving through space and time. And I've blown glass into them and had the glass bulge out around the spiral of the solid form. And this, I really like this construction a lot. I've been wanting to do something different that's, along the lines of my Aurora sculptures, which are on the metal stands, but maybe, incorporate the glass, make it all glass. And so this was sort of, that's always in the back of my mind. And that's how this piece came about. And then when I always try to name the really unique, unusual ones like this. And I kept describing the twisty part as being like a Mobius strip, but the 2 crescents coming together was, I ended up calling that the conjunction. So Mobius conjunction is the name of the piece, and I'm very, very happy with it. And it did sell yesterday, so yay for us, Yeah.
Well, thank you. And I really hope you pursue more of sculptural work, because you're a master at using Caledony, that incorporating that into these kind of sculptures really bends that whole light. It's absolutely wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Could we go to Lucy's work, Irene?
Yes.
And then we'll be showing you still shots of each of these pieces so that you'll get a clear view of each of the works.
Under discussion.
Yes, this really fascinated me, Lucy. I love the conversations that are happening with these. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Well, really, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. You know, you have your people that have things on their heads. They're part of one group. and there's one of them who doesn't have anything on his head. And then the lighter colors are a different group. And it's like they're having a debate, you know, trying to work something out. Sort of political, vaguely.
Well, they're very wonderful. It was such a joy getting them in. It's always like Christmas for us when we unpack these and you see the images prior, but when you actually see the pieces, it's wonderful. So thank you very much. Can we show the overall work, Irene?
Absolutely.
Actually, Irene, we have a request for the Aqua Moon, number 13, if you could get a close-up of that one of Elodie's.
Aqua Moon sold just this morning, but I'd be happy to give a close-up. But we had somebody come in and she already bought one of Elodie's last week, and one is not enough. Kind of like in a potato chip.
Nice.
And I'm sorry the lighting isn't, it's well lit in the gallery, but the lighting coming through Zoom isn't exactly cooperating.
Yeah, it's very, very blue, bright blue inside. So it's it does definitely look darkened through this camera.
Could you turn that to the side, Irene, and maybe they'll see
just
the back?
And demonstrate how these pieces turn on their stands too. I do put these pieces, have them mounted on a single post, so the piece does turn, which makes it kind of interesting. You can look at two different sides. I like the way that when I open up these pieces, you can see all the different layers that I put in. The outside layer is very different from the inside.
Be careful, that's a sold piece, Irene.
It's not going to go anywhere.
I know, but I get nervous. Can we go back to Lucy's work? Because the individual conversations are really wonderful as well. And I want people to see those in gallery, but you'll see them closer up in a few minutes.
I would, but this is a secret.
Now,
Very good.
You better move on.
This one sold. This is Minds Meeting.
These are the chiefs. They're having a conference.
I love the colorations in those as well. They bicolor in both of those. They're really wonderful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
And the surfaces are very sensuous.
And these are the stargazers. So they're all looking up. We have really great stars in New Mexico. I don't know about Florida. I didn't try looking up.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So these are they're all stargazing. And the last one is the King's Men, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
And those are his advisors. The king and his advisors.
These are wonderful. I love the shadows too. I'm going to share the screen so that people can, see it piece by piece at this point, because there are a few questions. So do you think this is a good time, everyone, for me to share? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Irene. That was so awesome.
Thank you, Irene.
That was great. All right. So bear with me again. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. And again, please, as you're looking at these images, feel free to ask questions. So again, we're starting with Elodie. And here, this is a studio shot, but I think it really accurately represents the patterns and the colors. And what kind of patina is this, Elodie, on the stand?
It's a copper patina on bronze. And I also have copper in the formula of the glass color chalcedony. It's a silver-based color, so all the metals make the different colors in glass. Most of you know that, but you know, copper, tin, chromium, cobalt, silver, cadmium, all these metals make different colors in glass. And this formula has, you know, some silver in it and some copper, and I find that it goes with the bronze and the patinas, the chemical that we use on the patinas perfectly, because it's all related, really.
Well,
So,
I'd like to point something out, Elodie, because not anybody can do that. Even with the same colors, the same metals, the same everything, it's almost like you're working with as an alchemist, creating these colors. It's I've never seen anybody being able to pull that out like you do.
well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's, you know, it is quite a dance. You know, the formula, the recipe for the formula is very important. The atmosphere you melt it in the furnace, whether it's, you know, gas rich or oxygen rich, will totally influence the colors that I end up with. And the way I handle it when it's on the pipe, it's very easy to heat it up too much and wash out some of the colors. So it's that knowing the rhythm of that glass through the entire process that I get these vibrant colors to come out. And it is like alchemy. It's, I can, because of my extensive experience of melting this color and blowing it, I can see what's happening on the blowpipe and kind of tell where it's going to be going. And it'll strike richer. Once I finish the piece, it goes into a 900-degree kiln called an annealer, and it'll stay there at a certain temperature and slowly come down in temperature. When there's a lot of copper, for instance, in the formula, because I do take that in and out of the formula depending on the colors I want, I'll put it away and it looks totally pastel off the pipe. And then the next morning I open up the doors and you see this, like what you're seeing right now, the harvest moon. It just gets really rich. Those fuchsias and reds and pinks come out, and it's a nice surprise. So I could never tell you exactly what's going to happen. You know, all those different hues is sort of what it does. So I just sort of, you know, do what I do knowing that it's going to do something. And then what it does in the particulars is always a beautiful surprise.
Well, when I'm describing the process, would I be accurate in saying it's similar to raku in the sense that you can do all the formulas, but it's how the atmosphere is adjusting the colors, and you really never know what you're going to get?
Yeah, that's sort of, yeah. You're totally influenced by what material in raku, what material you're putting up against your piece, and then what glaze that or clay body that you've got it with, if there's more iron or less iron and things like that, will influence the piece. And yeah, and you never know exactly what's going to happen. Even when you're doing a firing in a gas-fired kiln for ceramics, firing your pieces higher up in the kiln or lower down in the kiln, you can get two completely different atmospheres going on. And with experience, you can take advantage of that and say, oh, I want this piece to go greener, I'm going to put it in this part of the kiln, and I want it to go redder, and I'm going to put it over here. So yeah, it's kind of like that.
Wow. Oh, and here's another.
And the blue that's in the middle of the pieces, that's a copper blue. The copper can go red or blue, kind of a Windex blue, greenish blue. I add a little bit of cobalt in the formula to make it a little bluer, you know. But yeah, it's all that, you know, it's like cooking, you know, like little this, little that.
So Lucy, we're going on to your work.
Okay.
And here's the chiefs.
Yeah, these are the chiefs. I don't really have too much to say about it. I would prefer that people make up their own stories about what's going on. So
I think that's the interactive nature of your work, that that people can put in those stories, and everybody has a different story.
yeah, I mean, I've had people, I did a piece called Therapy, and it was just a man and a woman sitting in chairs, and it was a constant debate as to who was the therapist and who was therapy. So, but that's what makes it interesting to me. This is the King's Men. Minds meeting. I like the idea that you can touch your mind to somebody else.
That connection.
Yeah, the stargazers.
Yeah, we're jealous. We don't get many stars in St. Pete.
No, we have tons of them. We have the Milky Way.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
We could see Mars.
Can you?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they had that conjunction not too long ago.
Yep.
And
Mars,
we saw
Jupiter, Saturn.
with binoculars.
Wow.
It was pretty great.
You can see the moons of Mars and Jupiter with binoculars here.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty darn cool.
We could see that conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn from here,
You could.
but it was far away.
Oh, it is far away.
Yeah, we're about 7,000 feet closer here in Santa Fe.
Doesn't make us that much closer.
Less atmosphere.
I'm intrigued by the head dresses or the hats or the hair on some of the characters, Lucy. They're really wonderful.
When I was making it, I thought of the one on the left side as the Statue of Liberty. The one in the middle is kind of a mohawk, but a round one. And the one on the right was the Tower of Pisa.
Okay.
I thought it was a cone head, but
So I do make up stories as I'm going along.
yeah.
It makes it fun for me.
Yeah, I was going to say, you have fun with this.
Stories. So
Peter?
Wow.
Hi. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful.
You know, these pieces as a whole are sort of this whole series is sort of an homage to all the cultures around the world that, make clay pots, clay vessels for ceremony and for everyday life. And the things that they make for ceremony, they usually put some sort of an ornamentation on it. And they're fancier ones, if you will. And that's what these are about. These are sort of an homage to all the different cultures that across the world, even though they may have no contact with each other, they've all made similar things throughout history. So that's kind of what inspires these. This is not one of them. This is a pitcher plant. I'm also interested in different parts of the natural world, and I'm fascinated by pitcher plants. And so this was just a series of those that I made.
well, what is a pitcher plant?
So a pitcher plant, there are two different kinds. There are some that have a long tail, like this one. You can see it has a little bit of a tail on it.
Right.
And it hangs from that tail, and it's a carnivorous plant. And then there are other ones that grow right out of the ground like a big straw. They grow out of a bog. And again, they're carnivorous plants, and you see them in tropical rainforests. And you see them in big clusters. The plants that they grow from look sort of like a banana leaf. They have this big leaf that the center rib of the leaf just keeps going out into space, and it hangs down, and then it's got this pod on the end of it that anything that goes in can't get out, and it eats it. I mean, that's
Interesting.
for lack of a better word, it's a carnivorous plant. So again, these are some more of these animal spirit jars that are based on, primitive storage vessels, the homage to them.
I like the subtle use of the singular couple of frit in the surface at the body, bottom portion of the body of the piece. That really adds a lot to that.
Are you talking about the blue or the gold?
The blue.
Yeah, I just sprinkle a bunch of blue frit loose on the marber while this is hot after everything's on it, and just roll over it and pick some up just to spice the colors up a little bit.
And what about the gold on the bottom?
So the gold, this piece has a crackle finish on it, and the color in the crack is an iris gold. And the color on the body of this piece is a copper ruby. And when I crackled the copper ruby and stuck it in the iris gold to fill the cracks, the iris gold is a very sticky color. And normally I wipe it off to reveal the cracks, and that's just the spot where it got so thick it wouldn't wipe off.
It's perfect.
It's perfect for the piece.
Yeah,
Exactly, yeah.
Happy accident. It was not intended. That's just the way it worked out.
That sort of picks up the owl.
Yep.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it does, but it was not intended. I'll tell you that. It just.
That's what we love, you know, it's with the artist's eye, you take advantage of those opportunities.
Yeah, the glass god smiled on me that day.
Yeah. Peter, can you talk about the petuto? I don't know if everybody knows what that means.
Well,
the texture on the top part.
So the petuto is an Italian word that refers to hammered copper. That's originally what they were trying to emulate, is a hammered copper surface. And in fact, before the Italians started doing this petuto technique, it was sort of pioneered at the Dôme factory in France. They were the ones who were really doing it first. And then the Italians started doing it. But it's just another way of giving texture to this piece. There's two different patterns in here. The top 90% is sort of a random pattern, but the belt pattern is a different horizontal pattern. It was cut with a different wheel going around to separate the top and the bottom of the jar. But again, it's just about texture.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I really like all these different textures here. The glass has been sandblasted and carved and pretty abused in the hot shop when I crackled it. And it creates a lot of interest to my eye.
The petuto also picks up the light, you know, in different ways too, which
Yeah,
is
it does. Instead of having a smooth surface, you've got so many different facets, and the light bounces off of it in all different directions. So
Somebody's asking how you crackle the glass without breaking the piece. Could you describe that?
yeah, so before this piece was this big, before it had been fully blown out, you know, it was much thicker and it was in the shape of a ball, and it could have been an inch thick or 3/4 of an inch thick at that point. And I got it as hot as I could get it on the blowpipe without it falling off, and then stuck it in a bucket of water. And very quickly, you know, just a quick dip in and out 2 or 3 times. And that, for lack of a better word, it froze the surface of the glass. You know, the glass was 21 or 2200 degrees when I stuck it in that water. And that sticking it in the water brought the surface down to about 1000 degrees, but the inside was still 2000 degrees. And then I blow into it, and the inside is hot, it expands, the outside is cold, it can't expand, so it cracks open. And then I stuck the whole thing in a bowl of colored glass powder, and the powder went into all those cracks, and in fact, it covered the entire outside surface. And then I took a damp rag and wiped it off, and it stayed in the cracks where there was enough heat to hold it, but the rest of it just wiped off. And then we put it back in the glory hole and heated it up again, and that that fused all that glass in place. It closed the cracks and it held that color that was in the cracks.
Wow.
So
Thank you. Peter.
just being hard on the glass, just abusing it.
Mhm.
So
So
And-
this one has a little bit of the crackle, but then is it fire polished or?
so this one, all my other pieces have been acid etched or sandblasted, and this one hasn't. This is the way it came out of the annealer. It, we flattened the top to fit the stopper and cut the punny off the bottom and put a lens in it so it would be nice and stable. And this is the way it came out of the annealer.
Beautiful.
So yeah, fire polished, I suppose.
Mhm. Exactly.
All right, you folks again can chime in on this. This is Charlie's work and it's Pat DeVere. You mentioned also that it is cold patinaed. And Lucy, can you maybe describe a little bit more what that process would be?
I have never seen it done, but
Oh, okay.
I do know that I know how he does the bodies. He mixes powdered glass and crushed glass, powdered very fine glass and crushed glass together, and he packs them into his molds, and that's how he gets the base color of all these pieces. And then he embellishes it afterwards with patina. And it is a cold patina. It's not fired on, but that's about all I can tell you.
Well, to give you another shameful ad here, our Pat DeVere class with Deanna Clayton, April 2nd and 3rd, you'll learn some of this technique, and I think you'll find it fascinating. But Charlie is a master, and this is one of the pieces that I first got to know Charlie's work. Was on a cruise ship that we had done some work for, and there was a Charlie Miner, and it was magnificent. So it's great to have him in the gallery.
I think his glass formula has about 25% lead crystal also, which when it's fired gives it a very particular stone-like look.
Well, I think that's the crushing of the glass. I mean, I use lead crystal also, that all those figures that you saw are.
Oh, really? Oh, 25%. Okay.
Mine are 100% lead crystal.
Really?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Beautiful.
But he gets the color by putting in powders.
Yes, yes. And there's a very Art Nouveau kind of influence too.
And he packs the molds very specifically so that the colors gradate.
Like the previous piece.
Yeah, like the pink one.
Not this one, not that one, that one.
That one.
Pink into the more purpley color.
Yeah.
And we saw that in Clio also.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
It has a wonderful gradient, that small bowl, a gradient of color, going from the ruby to the purple with these green ferns on the outside. It's really magnificent.
And it looks like the green on that one is the patina you're talking about. Is that right?
Yeah.
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 So it's that's a beautiful detail.
Yeah, it really works well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love
So we
that
hope
color.
that, yeah.
I don't know what the little black dots are.
Well, Charlie uses those a lot. So I think it adds a really nice visual effect and depth really to the imagery. So everyone will have to come in, and when you get a chance, also, just as we saw Irene walk around the gallery, whoops.
Hi, Irene.
Hi, Irene. Just as we saw Irene walk around the gallery and show, all the pieces to everyone, if someone is interested, please contact the gallery, and Duncan and Irene again can, be your personal curators, walk around the gallery, see the show, and see all these pieces in detail and close up for you too.
But if you are close enough to St. Petersburg, we would love for you to come in the gallery. We are open 10 to 4. We're limiting, we're no longer by reservation, but we are limiting to 10 people in the galleries at any given time. So we're a very safe place to visit, and we'd love to see you in person.
So thank you, Lucy, Elodie, Peter, and Charlie. Thank you so much for the wonderful work and for being here today. It's such an honor to have your work here, and everything that you put into making this happen. I know that it's an effort part. So we're so honored, and thank you to our audience for joining us this week as well. Does anyone have any further questions, comments?
Thank you for having us. We are happy to be in the show. And happy to be in, we wish we were actually in Florida, but at least our pieces are there.
Well, really thank you for everybody to come in today.
It's wonderful to see everybody.
Yes, thank you, everybody. It's nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see everybody again soon. Stay
Have
safe.
a great weekend.
Okay.
Thanks. Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.